This is Teal, and it's time for another episode of the Bare Essentials. I want to talk about Jesus, and I want to talk about appearances. Tell me, how long do you think it takes to come to a first impression? If you're going in for a job interview, how long does it take for a person to decide you're smart or stupid or pretty or ugly? I did some reading, and there are some psychologists that have done testing just to figure that out. The shortest time that I read about was 1/10 of a second. That means you have 1/10 of a second to make a first impression. It's kind of unconscious, right? They're just going to look at you and say, yeah, you're dumb. Or yeah, I want him, that thing. The longest period of time was done was the results of a study, and it was 26 seconds. So in any case, less than a half a minute, you will be sized up as to whether you're a desirable candidate, either for friendship or for a job. It makes me think, what was Jesus like? What did Jesus look like? Here's some pictures I've gathered up off the internet. Some of them I've seen before, some of them I haven't. This one is my grandmother's favorite. She had this one in the hallway of her house in Oakland, California, and when I spent the night there, I would see that one. It's only recently, and I find this kind of interesting or humorous, it's just recently we've decided to portray Jesus as somebody from the Middle East. After all, he was a Jew from the Middle East. So Jesus looked like something, right? But we don't have any idea what he looked like. He wasn't important enough to have something carved in stone or have carved in wood or something. There's a Bible verse, though, and probably some more, but this is the one I picked. In Isaiah chapter 53, verse 2, it's a prophecy about what the Messiah would be like. And in verse 2, it describes his appearance. All right, let me read this to you. This is really interesting. He grew up like a small plant before the Lord. He was like a root growing in a dry land. He had no special beauty or form to make us notice him. There was nothing in his appearance to make us desire him. And you're saying, Teal, was Jesus ugly? I don't know if he was ugly, but for sure he was plain. He wasn't movie star material. You remember reading in the Bible about Saul, King Saul, the first king of Israel, and how he's described as being head and shoulders above the crowd and very handsome. And the people would look at him and say, yeah, we want him as a king. So what about appearances? What do you think about appearances? Jesus was plain. And how did some of the people describe him? They said he was a Samaritan. They said he was a liar. They said he was crazy. They said he was a drug addict, alcoholic. And by the way, he was homeless. They had derogatory things to say about him, and he didn't look so good. So did that bother Jesus? In our culture, and today, I don't know if it's all cultures, but I know in Western culture, it's important how you look. And we say, no, it's not. But it is. It is. We spend so much time worried about how we look. I can remember being a kid and thinking, oh, I wish I looked different. Then I'd be popular. I'm just fat and ugly. And me, as a teenager growing up, girls and boys, they're so consumed with what they look like. It's like, oh, I'm awful. Who'd ever want to be around somebody like me? There is an emphasis on that. And so you have to ask yourself, did Jesus care about how people thought of him, how people thought of his looks or his personality or whatever? Did Jesus care about that? There is no Bible verse that I can think of, or Bible verses in the scripture where it says, Jesus did not care what people thought about how he looked. And there are no Bible verses where it says Jesus cared about how people described him. There are no verses. But I think he didn't care. I think it didn't bother him. It was not an issue for him. And you say, well, Teal, why do you say that? If there's no Bible verse that says that, let me tell you this. In the book of Colossians, Paul writes about Jesus and his choice to come to earth. And he writes that Jesus abandoned what he had in order to humble himself as a human. He had glory, he had beauty, he had magnificence, he had... Jesus gave up that to become a human. So it was premeditated by design. Jesus wanted to be plain. He wanted to be who he was. He has no discomfort in being the human Jesus from Nazareth. Why? He knew who he was. Do you know who you are? Who are you? Is it related to how you look on the outside? If you're feeling feminine or feeling masculine? Or do you think that's what you should be? If you look at someone else and say, well, that's a man, I think. I really should identify with that. Or that's a female. I should identify with that. Well, go ahead. That's all right. You can be feminine or you can be masculine, but don't change your body parts. The body parts are the shell. They're the tent in which you live. You don't need to change them and to be something to portray or try to receive acceptance on the outside for who you are on the inside. Just be. Just be. Okay. I guess I'm getting in trouble. Learn to be like Jesus. Know what you are inside, and that there is a disconnect between what you look like on the outside and who you are on the inside. All right? I hope you have a good day. Hope I didn't stir you up too bad.